JPEGMAFIA continues to be arguably the most creative rapper out right now on his new project, I Laid Down My Life For You. I've been loving this record, and in this review I'm gonna talk about what makes it so great and how Peggy's risk-taking, not just on here, but throughout his career has led him to making some of the best and most creative hip-hop music I have ever heard. I Laid Down My Life For You is a mix of experimental, industrial, and hardcore hip-hop, which also has influences from metal. You could say some of it is rap metal. Now that may sound extremely harsh and loud just based off of those tags, but it also has some of his chillest and most somber music. He transitions from sound to sound on pretty much every song. Every song is different from the previous one, and it's what keeps this project entertaining. Within the songs, there are so many changes and switch-ups, even changing to just like a completely new song mid-track. It's the unpredictability of this record that makes it as good as it is. You may think you know what direction the song is going in, like you may be able to tell, oh okay, this song is building up to a climax, I can tell, but no. Peggy on this album manages to keep coming in and introducing brand new ideas every time, and nothing is predictable. You may think you know where a song is going, but no. And I think 90% of these switch-ups work so well and actually sound good. If it was just changes for the sake of it, it would be pretty pretentious and not good. However, Peggy manages to actually have meaningful change-ups that contribute to the song and keep it from getting stale. Yes, he has also done this on other projects as well. It's one of his strong suits. However, on I Lay Down My Life For You, I feel like he really lets that aspect of his music and creativity shine. Content-wise, a lot of it is just Peggy talking about what he usually talks about. However, we have some of the songs on here that go a little bit deeper and are some of his best writing. So again, he doesn't consistently do this. Even on songs that are more serious, he kind of goes off topic. It's something nice to see, and it's very present on the outro track. I recovered from this. Production wise, I mean, this is just as good as any other JPEG album. Like, it's scary how consistent he is. This is probably his harshest sounding album with heavy use of electric guitars, and I have to mention the drums as well. Not only on some of the tracks do they sound straight up like metal drums, I have to mention the choice of drums by Peggy, the sound choice. He picks out sounds perfectly on this album, and it doesn't make the whole rap metal thing seem like a gimmick. No, this is actually just rap metal. Let's go through the track list where I'm gonna point out some key points about each track, and yeah, there's a lot to talk about. From the first track, I Scream This in the Mirror Before I Interact With Anyone, we get a taste of what this project is going to sound like. Mostly, again, there are different sounding songs of course, but this is the general sound of it. This is that rap metal, industrial, hardcore sound. Interesting structure with the short verses, a heavy guitar chorus, a complete switch up in a melody and the drums at a certain point, good energy from Peggy, and we also go back to the electric guitar near the end. Truly an amazing intro. It's just so loud and opens up the album so well. It lets you know what you're in for. MIEDO, I think it's pronounced, I don't really know how to pronounce it, I don't even know how to describe it. It's a mix of glitch hop and industrial music while also having some rock and metal influence. Like, this song is really just all over the place, but it works so well. The sample is one of the best on this album. I love how long he takes to get to the first drop or climax of the track, I guess, but it just keeps going on from there. We get more electric guitars over this broken up sample, and it eventually turns into this incredibly bouncy electronic song. Like, this is exactly what I mean. You can't tell where this song is going to go and how it's going to transition or how it's going to develop, but it works so well, and it's definitely one of my favorites from the project. It's just so chaotic and hard. I'll Be Right There has grown on me a lot. It's one of the chiller songs in the project. Some really cool rapping from Peggy over some really nice strings and such a good sample. I can't really pinpoint where the sample is from, but I swear I've heard someone else use it. Anyhow, great rapping from Peggy, and it creates a nice break from the chaos of the previous two songs. Then we get the underrated It's Dark and Hell is Hot. At least in my opinion, it's underrated. I love how he experimented with Brazilian funk. I think there's a lot of potential in the type of music, and some of the stuff is really good, and he just takes that and gives it more of an industrial, abstract hip-hop turn to it. Great work on the sample, and the whole song keeps progressing and developing. At a certain point, a really dirty, grimy sounding sub bass is introduced over the sample while Peggy is going off. It's honestly such a fun, dark sounding and entertaining song. I'm going to skip over New Black History, as in my opinion that is a weak point of this project. I think both of the rapping is good, but Vince's verse should have been longer, and the future sample doesn't work that well for me. Don't Rely on Other Men though got a whole rework on this album with new verses, and I think this version is way better. We're going back to that heavy sound with this one. I love the song structure and how short the verses are, which allows for the explosive chorus to come in more often. The song gets even better going into the outro, which sounds euphoric to me, honestly. The electric guitar is back, the sample is still going in the back, the drums get louder and more distorted, Peggy's vocals get louder and more distorted as well, some strings and a choir get introduced. There is so much going on and it just sounds so good to me. One of the best moments on the the whole project. Vulgar Display of Power is, in my opinion, the most underrated song on this album, definitely the most catchy for me, and I love the electric guitar on here. That part right there of the chorus is so catchy and hard-hitting. Definitely one of the most hardcore songs on this album, and I feel like the name captures the sound pretty well. Peggy has some really nice lines here too, and generally his rapping is top-notch, and he does exactly what he needs to do. To talk more about the guitar on here, it's not like it's just one melody, no, it's consistently changing, which I just love so much. Not one thing about this album is linear, it is so dynamic. Ex-Military is the most progressive song on the whole album. Also, content-wise, it's one of the most interesting songs in the project. I feel like Peggy's lyricism and rapping on here are among the best on the album. It is quite a long first verse, but drops into a climax eventually. It's some synth with a guitar with heavy effects on it, I think is that, I'm not too sure, don't beat me up if it's not. Before the song just introduces a whole new sample and melody, the whole feel of the song changes before bringing back the original melody and then dropping in these metal drums and guitars. It's actually insane. Peggy growls and just keeps adding, going back to having short verses compared to the first half where the verses were longer. The guitar with heavy effects comes back with the outro. Honestly, just extremely impressive how he was able to put all this down and break this stuff together and break stuff back in, mess with the structure of the song so much, and still make it sound great. G.A. Joe, I think that's how it's pronounced, picks up as it's going. It has a complete switch up near the end, which brings in the heavy guitars, and has one of the catchiest lines on the whole project.
I'm so terminally online, goddamn, I gotta check myself.
JPEG Ultra is a collab with Denzel Curry, and it was bound to be good. Everything these two have touched has been amazing. The interludes they have in between are genuinely funny, and both with the rapping is great as well. It's a very loud, chaotic song, but I think it represents their personality really well, so it works. There's also a switch to a complete different song near the end, something a bit more somber and serious sounding in contrast, with an acoustic guitar, strings, and choir vocals, and that helps to transition into my favorite song on the album, Either On or Off the Drugs. Wow. It samples an AI-generated remake, I guess, of a Future song called Turn On the Lights, which kind of gives it a blues twist. Peggy somehow found this blues AI remake of Turn On the Lights by Future and used it on this track, and it turns out to be one of his best samples that he has ever used. Like, this is actually just incredible. It's one of his smoothest sounding tracks. From his rapping to how the song develops, bringing strings and a guitar later on, using many different parts of the sample, switching it to a completely different song, using the same sample near the end of the song, which also happens to sound so smooth and nice. It really is perfect. It's one of my favorite tracks of his and definitely the best song on this album. Loop It or Leave It is one of the more forgettable tracks on here in my opinion, so I won't talk much about it, but I still think it's good. I like the instrumental and Peggy's performance as well. Don't Put Anything on a Bible is another song where you just can't predict where it's gonna go. I was thinking that it would drop into something going off of how it was building up on Buzzy's vocals, but no, it just switched to a completely different track out of nowhere. I love it though. I think her vocals are amazing and the acoustic guitar on the first half really works well in contrast to the distorted and deep sounding bass, as well as the distortion on her vocals. The second half has an interesting feel to it. I don't know quite how I feel about it. I definitely like it less than the first half, but it's still damn good, okay? I still like it. It's interesting seeing an acoustic guitar being used in hip-hop, and he pulls it off pretty well on it. And then we have the outro, I Recovered From This. As I said near the start, the highlight of this track is the lyrics for me. Seeing Peggy go more in-depth is always fun, and I love how he's been able to transition from this very chaotic, dark sound to something very, I guess, calm and somber. JPEGMAFIA and I Lay Down My Life For You channels his creativity and makes one of his most unique projects yet. It's a mix of industrial, hardcore, and experimental hip-hop with elements of metal. The production is top-notch and differs from song to song. The songs themselves are extremely dynamic as well and unpredictable, like you never know what's coming. It's harsh sounding, yet has moments where Peggy seamlessly transitions to a way calmer sound, gelling everything together to create contrast and keep the project fun and interesting. I'm gonna give this album a 9 out of 10, and I feel like it is one of Peggy's best and definitely one of the stronger albums this year. Let me know what you guys think. Please make sure you like, subscribe. It will mean so much to me, as it will push my video and my channel into the YouTube algorithm, and we are closing in on 10K subscribers. But yeah, I guess I'll see you guys next time. Peace.